So you've probably seen the news buzzing about India and China. They're talking about these new restrictions China put on exporting germanium.
That's right. And it's one of those things that, on the surface, might seem like a small trade issue.
Exactly. But if you're keeping track of current events, maybe especially for the UPSC exams, these things often signal something, well, bigger.
Absolutely. It's a window into strategic dependencies, global supply chains.
So today on the Deep Dive, we want to dig into that. Why is this one element, germanium, suddenly such a big deal? And what does it tell us about India's push for self-reliance, especially with critical minerals?
Yeah, think of the germanium issue as a starting point. We'll look at germanium itself, but then zoom out to the whole critical minerals picture, why they matter, where India stands, what's being done.
And we're basing this on recent analysis, right?
Yeah.
Particularly drawing from reports in the Hindu.
Correct. Using that as our main guide to navigate this. So first things first, critical minerals. What are we even talking about when we say that?
Good question. They're basically raw materials essential for the economy, for defense, for tech. But their supply chain is risky, vulnerable to disruption.
Right. Think renewable energy, EVs, high-tech manufacturing, things India needs for growth and, that Atmanirbhar Bharat vision.
Okay, so back to the trigger. Germanium. China's restricting exports. What exactly is germanium and why is it so important?
Well, germanium itself is interesting. It's a semi-metal, lustrous, hard, silvery white, has a crystal structure like diamond.
Okay, sounds fancy. But the applications, what makes it crucial enough to restrict?
That's where it gets really significant. Think about the internet. Fiber optic cables rely heavily on germanium.
The backbone of our digital world, basically.
Exactly, and it doesn't start there. Infrared imaging devices, think defense, surveillance, medical tech, even industrial checks. Germanium is key.
Wow.
Also, the preforms needed to make those fiber optic cables, and certain high-efficiency solar cells use it too. Helps with heat resistance and performance.
So it's woven into some really fundamental modern technologies. And the news keeps mentioning China's dominance here. Just how much control do they have?
It's substantial. Estimates vary slightly, but they produce over half of the world's germanium. Some say significantly more.
Over 50%. That's a huge share.
It is. It gives them, considerable leverage over the global supply.
Which brings us to the why. Why put these restrictions on now? Is it just about managing their own supply, or is there more to it?
It seems like a mix of factors. Officially, they cite national security concerns. That's a common reason given globally these days for tech material.
Oh, we hear that a lot.
But many analysts see it as partly retaliatory, a response to trade measures, particularly from the U.S., and fundamentally, it strengthens their grip on these critical supply chains.
Okay, so a strategic move, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
What's the immediate fallout likely to be here in India? Which industries feel the pinch first?
Anyone relying on imported germanium, really. Manufacturers of fiber optic components, obviously that's crucial for digital India.
Yeah.
Companies making specialized optical gear for industry or defense, maybe even some parts of the solar sector using those high-efficiency cells. It really underscores that import dependence, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So germanium is the immediate focus, but you said it's part of this bigger picture of critical minerals. Let's broaden out. What defines a critical mineral?
Essentially, materials vital for the economy and national security where supply chains are fragile or concentrated. We're talking copper, lithium, nickel, cobalt, rare earths. The list goes on.
The ingredients for modern tech. Wind turbines, EVs, grids.
Precisely. And India actually has its own official list recognizing our specific needs. 30 minerals identified as critical.
30. Okay. And germanium is on that list, I assume?
Yes, along with others like antimony, beryllium, bismuth, cobalt, several key ones.
Now, I've heard it's not just about having the minerals in the ground. The processing is a major bottleneck, too.
That's a really critical point. You might have the ore, but turning it into the high purity stuff needed for advanced tech, that's a whole different capability.
And China is strong there, too.
Very strong, especially in processing rare earth elements. They control, estimates suggest, maybe 80 to 90% of global processing capacity. That's a huge choke point.
Wow. Okay. So why is securing these critical minerals so absolutely vital for India's game plan? What are the big strategic goals tied to this?
It's fundamental on several levels. Meeting our net zero climate commitments, you need these minerals for green tech. Powering the EV revolution, India's EV market is projected to grow incredibly fast, like 49% CAGR.
Huge growth.
Huge. Then there's manufacturing solar panels, advanced electronics, basically fueling innovation in AI, robotics, space tech. It all ties back to Atmater Herbert's self-reliance.
And it sounds like there are geopolitical angles, too. For anyone preparing for UPSC, this must connect directly to international relations, strategic policy.
Absolutely. The economic survey, I think it was 2022-23, specifically warned about this, that critical minerals could become the new oil geopolitical flashpoints.
The new oil, that's a powerful comparison.
Control over these resources equals economic and political clout. Simple as that.
Okay, paints a clear picture of the stakes. So let's talk about India's current position. How dependent are we on imports, especially from China?
We are, unfortunately, quite heavily import dependent for many critical minerals. And yes, a significant chunk comes from China.
Could you give some examples? What are we importing that's critical?
Well, things like bismuth, important for pharmaceuticals, lithium, essential for batteries, obviously, but also used in aerospace, silicon, the heart of semiconductors. We import substantial amounts of these.
Right. So what about domestic availability? Do we have reserves of these things within India? What does the data, maybe from the Hindus analysis, tell us?
It's a mixed bag. Some things look okay, others are a concern. Cadmium, for example, we recover as a byproduct when smelting zinc, so we have a source there.
Okay.
But cobalt, we currently don't have known reserves. Our entire need is met through imports. That's a major vulnerability.
Completely reliant on imports for cobalt.
Ouch. What about copper? Copper's tricky. We have mining, but our domestic production meets only about 4% of what our refineries need. So massive imports are still required.
Only 4%. Wow. Okay, what about some of the others we hear a lot about? Gallium, germanium, lithium.
Gallium, like cadmium, can be a byproduct in this case from producing alumina. And there was past recovery at places like Hindalco and Enelco. Germanium, as we've established, we don't produce domestically right now, fully import dependent.
Right.
Lithium is perhaps more hopeful long-term. There are inferred resources, quite significant ones, found in Jammu and Kashmir, around 5.9 million tons.
5.9 million tons. That sounds like a lot.
It's a potentially very valuable resource, yes. But finding it is one thing. Developing the extraction and processing, that takes time and investment.
Sure, it's not overnight.
Right.
What about graphite, nickel, rare earths, silicon? Any better news there?
Graphite, yes. India has decent reserves, around 9 million tons estimated. Nickel, well, Vedanta has a plant, Nikomet in Goa, that produces it. Rare earth elements, or REEs. We actually have quite large resources estimated in our beach sand monazite deposits. About 11.93 million tons of monazite, which is rich in rare earth oxides.
Then potential there, too.
Definitely potential. And silicon India is the 12th largest producer globally, based on 2022 figures. Around 59,000 metric tons, though, again, for very high purity stuff, we likely still rely on imports.
Okay, so summing that up, some domestic potential, yes, but clear dependence, especially for really key things like cobalt, germanium, and meeting our full copper needs. It makes sense that India is trying to address this. What initiatives are actually in place?
There's a definite push. The government launched the National Critical Mineral Mission. That's the umbrella strategy to ensure supply.
Right.
Then there's KABIL Khanij Badesh India Limited. Its specific job is to go out and secure mineral assets overseas, acquire stakes, sign agreements.
So looking abroad proactively.
Exactly. Diversifying sources. India also joined the Mineral Security Partnership, the MSP. That's a coalition of countries working together to strengthen critical mineral supply chains, trying to reduce reliance on any single source.
A multilateral approach.
Yeah.
And are there specific country-to-country deals, too?
Yes, the investment partnership with Australia is a big one. Australia is rich in many critical minerals, so that collaboration is key for exploration, development, processing.
Makes sense. Any changes to domestic policy?
Yeah, a significant one was the amendment to the Mines and Minerals Act in 2023. The idea is to make it easier, faster to explore and mine critical minerals within India itself.
Streamlining things.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And of course, the Geological Survey of India, the GSI, is constantly doing exploration work across the country, trying to find new domestic reserves.
Okay, so it's a multi-pronged strategy: domestic exploration, policy changes, international partnerships, acquiring assets abroad. Seems comprehensive.
It needs to be, given the challenge.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's distill the key takeaways. For someone listening, maybe prepping for UPSC or just trying to understand India's direction, what are the main points to hold on to from this germanium situation and the critical minerals landscape?
Okay, first, the germanium export restrictions by China are a wake-up call. They highlight just how fragile some global supply chains are, and specifically India's dependence for certain vital materials.
Point one, Vulnerability exposed.
Point two, this isn't just about germanium. It reflects a broader strategic challenge across a whole suite of critical minerals that India absolutely needs for economic growth, tech advancement, and crucially, the green energy transition.
Point two, it's a wider strategic issue.
And point three, India is taking action. There's a clear recognition of the problem and a range of initiatives, KABIL, MSP, policy reforms, exploration aimed at building self-reliance. But, and this is important, achieving real security in this area is going to be a long-haul effort.
Right. It's not a quick fix. And for you, the listener, especially if you're focusing on your UPSC preparation, understanding this whole nexus, geopolitics, economics, technology, critical minerals, it's really vital. It touches on international relations, economic policy, strategic autonomy, core syllabus areas.
Absolutely. You need to see how these pieces fit together.
So that brings us to a final thought to leave you with. Considering this rise in global demand, this competition for critical minerals, what else might India need to do? What long-term strategies, maybe beyond what's already underway, could be crucial to really secure our economic and technological future in this space?
That's the big question moving forward, isn't it? Something definitely worth thinking about as this story evolves.
Indeed. If you found this deep dive useful for understanding germanium, critical minerals, and India's strategy, particularly if it helps with your UPSC prep or general awareness, please do give us a like and subscribe to the Deep Dive for more analyses like this.
And please leave your comments below. Any further questions you have or your own insights on this topic, we'd love to hear them.
Just a reminder, our discussion today was based on analysis of current events and reports, drawing significantly from information published in the Hindu. Thanks for joining us.